Genshin Impact has become one of the biggest games of all time, for better or for worse. But Genshin is on its 3 years of existence, and it has faced a lot of ups and downs throughout its life. So today, as a Genshin YouTuber and someone who has been in the fandom and player base for so long, I want to ask, should you play Genshin Impact in 2024? From my personal perspective, I'm honestly burnt out from the game, and that's fine. It's my finals week right now, and I'm honestly just trying to get back into the groove of content creating, but I also want to give my personal feedback as someone that has been here in the player base for around a good 3 years. Genshin has been a massive part of my life, for better or for worse. But if you're a new player and want to know if Genshin is worth picking up, then I will be giving you my brutally honest 2 cents about the entire thing, because I'm a player that believes that with time, a game can definitely improve. And I'm happy to say that, should you play Genshin Impact in 2024? Yes. You should absolutely play Genshin Impact in 2024 because of the current state of the game being one of the best states that the game has ever been for a very, very long time. Actually, Genshin's the kind of game that you should start later. I advocate for the idea that the longer that Genshin exists, the more that you should wait out on the content. And yes, it sounds kind of nuanced, but Genshin is a live service game, and it's a gacha game with continuous updates per patch. So starting the game really late into its development is actually super beneficial because a lot of the content has already been unlocked for you. Talk to the day 1 players and you will just hear how much grind playing there was through the lackluster patches or seeing the map slowly open up bit by bit. But now Genshin Impact is in such a strong state that if you start now, you're basically getting a fully fledged game with more than half of its content already released. And that's without paying for the DLCs. Oops. So, basically, if you're going to start the game now, you're going to experience the following things. Number 1 is you're going to get the gameplay and quality of life improvements that have been there for years, including but not limited to artifact optimization, quicker travel, multi-level map checking, other aesthetic polishes, no more previous quest requirements for events, new gadgets, and other things that came with the player feedback surveys. If you didn't know, the reason why I always advocate for people to start playing Genshin Impact now, or at least in the later days, it's because Genshin Impact gives out these surveys per patch, where players can actually give out their honest opinion about the patch that the survey came out on. And the thing is, Hoyoverse, for better or for questionably worse, Hoyoverse does listen to our suggestions sometimes, and you're going to be able to see this with the quality of life improvements and the other story improvements that I'm going to be talking about later. So I honestly advocate for playing Genshin Impact right now in 2024, now that you have all of these amazing quality of life improvements that I would have murdered for 2 years ago. Number 2 is that there's more places that you could go. Genshin Impact releases a nation every year, so the patch that we're currently in now when I'm making this video is in Fontaine. But next year we're going to get Natlan, and then Snezhnaya, and then maybe Conria, and then Celestia. Apparently Genshin Impact has a 10-year plan, and I'm not going to make it, I'll be honest with you. But if you're going to start playing Genshin Impact now, you're going to get 5 different regions, which is Mondstadt and Dragonspine, Leo and the Chasm, Inazuma's complete release, Sumeru and a completed map with all the deserts and the forests, and then maybe just one more island missing from Fontaine. I'm not quite sure, honestly. I'm not really someone that follows leaks. What's good about this is that the map is massive, and if you're someone that likes just sinking hours into a video game for maybe a week or maybe a month, Genshin Impact is already in that state where you can do that. You can definitely grind your way across 5 nations while still having a lot of content to do for maybe another month. This was something that you couldn't do back in day 1 because Mondstadt and Leo were the only ones that you've got, and if you played the game continuously for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, you're basically completed with the game, and you're going to need to wait for the patches, which is, oh boy, that was brutal. But you don't have to worry about that because apparently the average time that's spent for new players to complete the entire map of Genshin Impact, I'm talking about 100%ing every little nook and cranny, is around 1 to 2 months, which is more than enough. I'll be honest with you. Next is that if you're someone that doesn't like just the hack and slash of Genshin, TCG and the Teapot are already fully flourishing right now. If you're someone that likes card games, Genshin Impact definitely provides an alternative for its hack and slash mechanics. Genius Invocation is already in a really good state right now and is a flourishing, almost separate gameplay. There's a lot of people that only play Genshin Impact for the TCG. Teapots, on the other hand, are kind of more low-key. Obviously, it's a sandbox building kind of situation, and what I like about this is that when you were there when the Teapot first came out, as well as Genius Invocation back in 3.x or 1.5, you're going to note that it was super duper wonky the first time that it came around. Load was always a problem for the teapots. There were some instances where many bugs happened for the cards, or there just weren't a lot of cards to collect, especially character cards. So I definitely recommend playing Genshin Impact now, especially if you're someone that enjoys either card. So I definitely recommend that you check them both out. And then another one is the quality of content themselves have severely improved over the months and the years. The actual overall aesthetic of Genshin Impact has very much improved with the player surveys, and I'm super happy about that, and I really wish that new players get to experience that kind of thing and actually see what it's like to play Mondstadt and then slowly but surely get to Fontaine, and you will see just how good the cutscene quality is. In Fontaine, where they have the filters, the dynamic camera work, the different kinds of poses, the new animation, the dialogue writing and the story writing improving by a lot, and stuff like that. I honestly believe that Genshin Impact has done wonders in improving the quality of the game itself and just how massive the game has become. Should you also play Genshin Impact in 2024? Definitely. Genshin Impact has evolved from being a game and has now become a pop culture. Did you know that Genshin Impact has multiple concerts all across the world? Technically speaking, it's on its world tour right now, which is kind of fascinating. Genshin Impact has become very big as a game. It has transcended the usual marketing team, and I don't know what kind of cult Hoyoverse is trying to make, but it's got all of the restaurants, the food, the cars. But with all the good comes the bad, and my personal criticisms of not playing Genshin Impact in 2024. A bit of a warning for new players, if you may. Number one is that you have definitely missed out on a lot of lore. If you are a player that is just starting out in 2024, I am so sorry to tell you this, but the lore and the cutscenes and the story, it's gone. You're going to need to go back through years of footage from the Genshin Impact YouTubers just to understand what happened during those events. Because per patch, Genshin Impact has these massive events, like these main events that usually focus on their characters, and they're much higher quality than the other events in the patch. And those events have cutscenes. Very important cutscenes. A majority of the marketing, for example, for that patch is from those main events, from those limited time events. So the moment that you have missed it, it's gone, and not only that, but there's a massive hole in the story that you're going to need to find out for yourself. A lot of characters are almost completely written differently if you don't know their actual lore from the limited time events. And I'm not just talking about lore that you can try and look for in the permanent content. There are some lore drops here that are only in limited time events or are barely referenced in other permanent content. So you are going to need to do your research, unfortunately. I'm so sorry, new players. Number two is that if you find a character that you think is cool, unfortunately, the chances are they're not available. If you wanted Venti, if you wanted Zhongli, if you wanted Farina, if you wanted Nahida, if you wanted Wander, if you wanted Child, you're going to need to wait for their banner. Genshin Impact revolves around this system where each character only has limited time where they're the featured character, especially if you're the 5-star. If they're a 4-star though, they're permanently on the game. You can just get them by some random cosmic luck. And because you started the game 3 years later, the odds of you getting the rerun of your favorite character aren't as high as you'd like it to be. There was one time that one character actually got at least 20 plus patches without getting her rerun, to the point that she was joked as not existing anymore. So you're going to need to temper your expectations and your attachment to these characters because not all characters are available in the game, especially not all characters that look cool. Number 3 is that if you do get those cool characters, especially characters that are from different regions, prepare to be horribly disappointed with how you're going to farm for their materials. Genshin Impact operates on an energy system, meaning that per day you can only do certain farming activities, certain domains, a limited times a day. Most of the time 10 to maybe 12 times if you do the math right. So be prepared to be stuck with characters that are underleveled for the content that you're currently doing. And that's Genshin Impact's artificial way of basically boxing you into a time schedule. Another one is if you get a character that is from a region that is relatively farther away, I wish you the best of luck. And if you get an Inazuma character, just assume that you're not going to use them for a very, very long time. Because Genshin Impact's way of leveling up characters requires resources that are from their homeland, or at least from a land that is deeply associated with them. Unfortunately, that also means that you need to go to the actual region. This could create a disparity where, for example, you're already exploring Fontaine, but your Arcane quest is still somewhere in Liyue. You're going to need to temper your expectations for something like that. But don't worry, Genshin Impact has been doing its best to try and mitigate that kind of problem, especially with allowing newer players to go into the other regions farther ahead. I have no idea what they did for Inazuma, but if you somehow get a Sara or a Goro, again, I wish you the best of luck. But that's it for me today, my honest 2 cents when it comes to the current state of Genshin Impact for new players, because I honestly really believe that Genshin is in a very good state right now. We don't talk about the fandom. I think there's just always something wrong that's happening when it comes to the community. We don't talk about that, we're just talking about the game. I honestly believe that Genshin Impact is a pretty good game. Pretty predatory sometimes, but pretty good game. You can honestly tell just how much effort Hoyoverse is going for a game that's free. And that's the biggest thing about Genshin. It's a free game with such amazing quality. And I really, really recommend this to newer players because I honestly love the story, I like the characters, and I really wish that more people would give this game a shot besides just talking it up into a gacha game. Because it's free! Unless you put in your PayPal information. Then it stops being free. And that sounds like a you problem. No, there's actually a lot of very sneaky predatory techniques that Genshin does, and I'm going to make a video on that next time. But nevertheless, should you play Genshin Impact in 2024? Absolutely. With the right warnings and repercussions. Anyway, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me.